So the last story we have for today is from Forbes, and the title here is FBI alert issued as time traveling hackers attack. Now, this is an article about a strain of ransomware, or I guess it's really a ransomware team called Medusa. Medusa's been running rampant in the first quarter of 2025. They don't provide any metrics on how many customers, but they do say that there's something like 300 critical infrastructure targets that were among their victims. I don't know how many non-critical infrastructure victims there were though. So one of the interesting aspects that this particular threat actor is approaching, or the way that they're infecting systems, is by using old signed vulnerable drivers. Now, on the average system, typically this is a Windows system because you can't have an APT without a Windows system. My experience, these old drivers with expired signatures would not load. Windows will just won't let you load it. But what they're doing is that the threat actor here is changing the clock on the system back such that they can actually load it because that driver's certificate is valid time wise. And what was really interesting to me, and they interview this security engineer from Black Duck, another vendor. Great. But you can kind of, as I was reading the comments from him, I could just feel the frustration in his voice, even though it's a written article. I'm trying to find the exact words. His name is Boris Seapot. I think is how he say his last name. Seapot told me that he highly recommends users do not switch off the security features, and furthermore, don't avoid patching just to keep old vulnerable software running. In the end,
you think?
Seapot concluded the risk potential simply is not worth it. It's so interesting to see it laid out like that because I think Microsoft, for all their ills, has done a pretty good job as of late creating a relatively secure ecosystem by default,
If you
which
set it up properly.
nobody likes to use. So they turn off all the settings because like all and then you get Medusa ransomware. And you're like, what the heck happened? So the lesson there is obviously, when you disable think. I mean, look, I've been in IT now for 32 years, 33 years.
We old.
We old. I've done every job just about there is. I guess I haven't been a AI prompt engineer, so I suppose I can't claim I've done everything. But putting that aside, I know this is a big challenge because businesses have an IT infrastructure for the purpose of running applications, not for like just to have a network of systems that we can all ooh and on look at the data center. Like we have it to perform some business purpose, and that business purpose almost always includes some shitty business software that requires like all ports to be open to the internet, or or you have to turn off certificate, device signing checking, or you have to do some non-standard thing, which is what this guy is really talking about. And I think the challenge is we don't often we have this notion, and I think schools, but all of the security guidance that's out there, wherever it comes from, always comes back to like, if possible, to the extent possible, secure it to the extent possible. Don't do something that is, only do something unless there's a valid business need. Well, you have this business application that requires you to turn off this important security setting. Well, it's a valid business need. And in most instances, that's where it stops. Like that's where we just the
Got my
whole
job done. Moving on.
the whole process just stops right there. But that's where it really should start. Like, because now we got to think about, well, what is the implication of me turning that setting off? And I don't think that's a common.
Well,
Something
and
that happens.
is the person making the decision technically astute enough to even understand the consequences? Are they appropriately knowledgeable to understand the risk they're accepting? or are they just trying to get their job done?
In most instances, no. In most instances, no. They're probably not even aware that they should be asking the question. And so, for that reason, I don't know how we ever get out of this. So
Yeah.
Microsoft can continue to improve the security of Windows until it's perfectly secure. And then when it gets to the hands of people, they're going to undo all the settings.
And if you force the settings, certain
Yeah,
segment of people will scream.
they're going to move over to doors, and Windows will be dead, and they'll be working on doors, right? Because doors will inevitably spin up to replace Windows.
I think we should end the podcast now.
So in addition to that guy, we will very soon, because I feel like I screwed up there. The
I'm
the FBI
questioning
had
all of my life choices that have brought me to this point. All of them.
the FBI had a couple of recommendations for mitigating Medusa. They say to identify, detect, and investigate any abnormal activity that could indicate a potential network traversal of ransomware, which seems pretty good. Monitoring of systems for unauthorized scanning and access attempts. The scanning one is very interesting to me. I know that I think it's a PCI. I'm getting old, and all of the different frameworks are kind of muddled in my mind, but I'm pretty sure it's PCI. I think FedRAMP does too. Requires that you treat unauthorized scans as an incident. So that means that you have to know,
If
like,
it's internal only, maybe. But if it's like internet facing, my God, I would be in incidents all day long. But my internet facing stuff is scanned constantly.
no, I think it's like an internal vulnerability scan.
Okay. Then I somewhat agree with that. Because nobody but security should be doing that.
And one of the concerns, by the way, is that your vulnerability scan and infrastructure gets compromised and then is
Mm-hmm.
used to go off and hack, and it's ignored. It's summarily ignored because, like, you're expecting to see that kind of traffic coming from those systems. So
Sure. Yeah.
the next was filtering of network traffic to prevent unknown or untrusted actors from accessing remote access services on internal services. I think that makes good sense, but again, that has limitations. I think we can all say, like, you shouldn't have RDP open pretty much anywhere, in my
Mm-hmm.
estimation. But at the end of
Or
the day,
if you do, it should be multi-factor enabled and well patched continuously
and
and
not
monitored.
exposed to the internet.
Right.
RDP should not be exposed to the internet. Full stop. But there are other things that are, like VPNs. At some level, your network, for it to be functional, has to be accessible. Auditing of all user accounts that have administrative privileges, so making sure that none have popped up, and then obviously following the principles of least privilege, which is so squishy. In my experience, it's so squishy that it's almost nobody cares. Then finally, disabling of command line and scripting activities and permissions along with unused ports. I don't understand. Obviously, I understand the unused ports. I don't understand how you disable scripting activities.
I would have to dig into the details of the report, which I did not have time to do, and understand where they're coming from. This I get. Like PowerShell is a way to do things. I get that. Like so I feel like they are leaning into command line scripting is an effective technique of bad actors once they get a beachhead. Okay, I get that, but it's also like 1,000 other things that it does. So I don't know. It's an odd one
Especially
to me.
nowadays, with everybody orchestrating the management of their infrastructure using command line scripting. So anyway, as you were saying, we're going to end it now because, well, just because. Anyway,
Because you've
I
offended my
I did
delicate sensibilities
I did,
with your
and I'm sorry,
doors joke.
very sorry.